You have worked with Mona Imam for 30 years. You've lived your whole life by his side. When he sees the world as it is today, and when you have these kind of conversations with him, what learnings do you have, and what can you tell us about how things are looking now? Because there's a lot of people who are really worried.
Understandably. But he has always taught me and built the institutions with a 100 to 500 year perspective. So he doesn't respond to crises in the immediate unless it threatens the well-being or the livelihood or the life of the Jamaat. He has lived through, we've got a figure, I mean, in his life, he started in the Second World War, lived through colonial times, post-colonial times, the winds of change, the Cold War, and all throughout those years, those many decades, he worked with the governments that he had to work with, regardless of what their leanings were or crises that were happening, because he sees the long-term future of the Jamaat and the well-being of the Jamaat as being more important than responding to immediate crises. And he taught me that as well. So, you know, if things go awry in a political sense, it doesn't really, it's not worth reacting today. Just try to ensure that the institutions are there. He often told me that his main goal with the AKDN agencies was to build institutions that were stronger and would outlast the people who populate them. And so these institutions are meant to outlast Hazrat Imam and me and everybody else, for the benefit of the Jamaat and their neighbours.
Let's talk about the institutions and the AKDN specifically. There's so many different agencies and they do so many different things. So how is it all connected?
I think that again, going back to Hazrat Imam's approach, so you can bring in development inputs, health, education, housing, etc., and in isolation they will make an impact. So health has a very rapid impact on quality of life, healthcare, access to healthcare, especially primary healthcare, following the principles of the Alma-Ata Convention, you know, family health, women and child health. Education is more of a long-term investment, so the impact is generational. It takes at least one generation, sometimes more, to see the impact of education as a development input. But all of these things in isolation do not amount to concrete or lasting development. It's the multi-input area development approach where you bring everything at the same time. So economic development and banking and insurance and all of the inputs that we have today. So sometimes people will say, telecommunications, why do you do that? Or, you know, insurance, why? These are all institutions that allow for civil society to grow and prosper and for people to have quality of life. And if they're all working together, which increasingly I like to think they are, then development is lasting and is far more widespread than just building a hospital.